I put it right on the shelf, and
Well, we can
Yeah.
do that if you want.
no,
I
that's
don't know if the
fine.
wind is going to be a
This
little
is
funky.
this is kind of good. I kind of like the moving
Yeah,
camera
okay.
effect. So this is Barry. I'm Jeff. He's heard my question, but for the sake of the camera, I'll say it again. But then we can just talk.
Okay.
What do you think happens after this life?
Well, police are coming for me, so I gotta go. If you would have asked me that question when I was 17, I would have told you the Christian answer.
Okay.
Now I'm 47. My relationship with religion changed around when I was 18. So, sadly for those in the religious world, I think that our bones decay into the earth.
And that's it.
And that is it. Yeah. And I know some might find that sad, and maybe it is, but it's...
What happened at age 18? Or actually, maybe let me ask you this. So it sounds like you had some kind of a religious upbringing.
Yes,
that point?
very much. I taught Sunday school when I was in high school, did acting, like puppetry, and was in the choir. And
Sounds like it was probably like a evangelical church then, or
non-denominational Protestant. Yeah. It was a cathedral, big, great church in Montana. It was very wonderful, wonderful experience. I ended up having an affair with a married woman in the church.
As an 18-year-old?
As a 17-year-old.
Wow. Okay.
No,
that's
church,
something that's a little unusual.
You didn't bargain for that in the Jewel Osco
No.
parking lot. And I don't know how I would have handled it if I were the church leaders. I was young. I was in over my head.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I was I understand that I probably needed to be removed from some of the programming that I was involved with.
Yeah.
They kept it under wraps a little bit, but it was, but not really.
So they weren't real big on, say, church discipline kind of thing.
Well, I mean, they said it'd be best if you weren't involved in this and that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't some formal thing, and I said, okay, I understand. But there was no sort of life coaching after that. It's just sort of all of a sudden I was toxic, and I was good. I was a good kid. Like I was good grades. Like I wasn't like a troubled youth or anything.
What about the woman? Was she a lot older than you, or what?
Yeah, I was probably 32, 33.
Oh.
And she also was not, it wasn't like a predatory thing. Like it was. I know it sounds like that, but it wasn't. It was just like an inappropriate thing that happened. And so anyway, and I wasn't bucking the system. I wasn't like, oh, you don't understand. We're in love. I didn't feel that way. But it was just sort of, that was it. It was, you're not allowed to be involved in these things anymore. But there was no sort of,
So you weren't really shunned, but you were put out of leadership.
Well, I wouldn't say I was in leadership so much as I just was involved heavily, and it was like, okay, it's this month it's Barry doing his, leading the lessons in his message in his way or whatever. So it was sort of this, they say quiet firing is like a thing.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like that, but there was no sort of life coaching afterwards. Like, hey, you made a bad choice here in path.
Okay.
There's gonna have to be a consequence here.
Yeah.
But let's keep talking. We're gonna work through this, and we want to. You're by far not too old to sort of take guidance here from the leaders of the church, and we want to keep. This is an opportunity to grow closer in your faith.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. So when that happened, and it just became, I went from sort of this very well-liked, well-involved person in church to just, it's like I smelled bad.
Yeah.
And that's where things changed. I said, well, this is pretty about as hypocritical as it gets.
Now, was this like, may I ask, was it like a one-time fling, or was it an ongoing relationship?
It was ongoing until we were, it was ongoing until the point at which it was discovered. It went on for probably 8 months or so.
Oh, okay.
And then after it continued for a while. It was just partly because they were in the middle of a divorce, and I just, it's a long time ago, so specifics I don't remember, but we just were like, well, I don't feel any different about this. She got in trouble, I got in trouble, but at that point it was like, well, cat's out of the bag, and so, for better or worse, we kept seeing each other. It was pretty complicated. I mean, it was complicated, but yeah, so I just felt like, at that point, I had to re-examine the whole way I perceived all the lessons and all of the sermons that I'd ever heard. Because if we can't live up to one element of it, which is Jesus, the Lord doesn't just say, well, you messed up, good luck with life. If that is not what we're saying he does, and that's not what we're preaching that we as people should do, but this is what's happening, then how am I supposed to figure out, well, what stuff is believable, what stuff is true, all this stuff that I've been being told my whole life. And again, it's not as if there was somewhat of this, flipping the finger at the church. I just kept going, and it was just, I was just me. It wasn't like any sort of defiant thing. And obviously, she wasn't super involved with the church as much, but her and her family did go a little bit. But it just, there was just no outreach from the church at all after the initial,
Was it such a big church that you were just lost in the mix, or was someone really dropped the ball?
And it had been going for so long. No, it wasn't like a mega church. It was intimate enough. I mean, it just, it's a small town too.
Maybe so small that they didn't want to be associated with you.
I don't know. I mean, I still was going.
Weird.
It's not that I don't think they were in a tough position.
Were you, as
the youth pastor was nearly best friends with this guy, with the husband. So it was complicated. But that doesn't preclude the lessons that Jesus and the Lord taught us for being relevant, or whatever religion you might believe in. Complicated shouldn't really play a factor. You know what I mean? We figure it out. Life's complicated. So
you kept on going to the church, right?
For a while until I was like, all right.
And then when you say when you were 18, you kind of dropped. Like, have you believed that there's nothing? Like, I guess I'm assuming if you say that there's no life after the grave, right? Would you also say God doesn't exist at this point, or?
So that is what's involved, right? Of course. That is what has been a long evolution, I guess, in my mind, in my heart. Since then, I'm 43.
The current
now.
term is deconstruction.
Deconstruction.
Are you familiar with that?
Of my faith?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what
it was
people call
deconstructed, but then at a certain point, you start building up a different path. You know what I mean? You can deconstruct it, and then
you take
it's like I'm gonna take a little. I don't know about that, and then you start getting science involved and logic, and then you start then
replacing it
you
with
start
other things.
You start looking at it through that lens, and so eventually I just stopped even really thinking about it like, because I did even afterwards. I was like, wow, man, it's gonna be tough, I kept trying to go to some church when I went to college. This is in a different town in Montana. But it just eventually, I just was like, man, I don't know. I just feel like this was a real thing. It's just kind of like a bunch of bullshit that I've been fed for so long until it became inconvenient for you guys. Now it's like, wow, we don't know this too much. You have outreach programs from people in the church to people in prison, but I can't, Anyway, so at this point in my life, 43 now, I'm very pragmatic and logical about it. Not in I in no way think that people who have a faith of any kind
not judgmental.
I got to the point, at some point maybe in my 30s where I just accepted the fact that there are just too many religions that are passionately believed in, and there is a very specific doctrine in that religion that those followers believe as the way.
Yeah. Are you talking about different religions or denominations within?
No, religions. When you have, I spent 7 months doing some nonprofit work in Cambodia. Obviously, a religious country, and they are, some of it's clearly nonsense. Like some of the rituals they might go through, but to them, it is wholeheartedly the absolute truth.
Yeah.
And they're just one of how many, recognized religions in the world. And I kind of got to this point where it just didn't add up. Well, who is it then? If and it's not like you're saying a denomination of Christianity,
right?
Catholicism, Lutheran, just like Christian. There's a big difference between Buddhism and Christianity.
Yeah. Should go stand under the.
Yeah, sure.
I think I could hold it out and we could talk and walk. Yeah. Yeah. So,
you have all the different religions in Africa and South America, even though Catholicism is pretty heavily southern. But I couldn't sort of rectify in my head how that could possibly be, how someone in Laos could live their entire life devoted to one singular religion, did everything that they felt was what they were supposed to do to get to the next life in good regard.
Yeah.
But somebody in Iowa could do the same thing in a totally different way, but they both achieve that same end, that same next step. I couldn't. Now I get it. I also remember in the teachings that not all things are able to be understood by the human. Like Jesus or whatever you might believe in, they leave it up to them to understand. But it's the same thing. That is a pretty hard one. Either it's this or it's that. How is it everything? But as long as so where I'm at now is I will even attend a church here and there. I'll go.
For social reasons, probably, I would assume. Or...
Not really.
Yeah.
Because it's still good.
Yeah.
There's still, especially, even more so in this sort of this modern day, modernized church, Bible-based, tied into normal life, which I think most churches do, but like in Catholicism, you just get so lost in the up, down, and everything. So there are a couple different modern churches that I'm talking maybe once every 2-3 months or whatever, because there is something about being in a room full of people who have a passion about something that is inherently just good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These are all people striving for the same goal, which is bettering themselves, their brothers here and away that need missionary help, and trying to apply the lessons of this book to their lives and their families and their community. And I find that in and of itself extremely valuable.
Yeah.
And I think I don't have to believe any of it. I don't have to believe that all of the things in the Bible happen for me to find value in the stories and lessons in it.
Yeah.
And the fact that everyone in this room, it's almost like if nobody in the room believed in the Bible, I feel like the thing would be pointless.
Right.
Because, so we're all just here. This is just a friggin' book now. Anybody could write this. But because everyone believes so passionately in it, for whatever reason in my head, I'm able to justify it as
it's valid for them.
Exactly, and if enough people in this world find this very, there's some sort of like universal bias to this that it's not just some crazy guy in the mountains of Montana. Just that's generally where cults tend to be, in these remote locations. This is like something that billions of people follow.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, front to back, fairly easy to buy into in terms of the lessons. So that's where I'm at.
Well, let me ask you this. So I've had experiences where, with in church people, where once they find one thing wrong, I actually was like a pastor. I'm actually a high school teacher right now.
Okay.
And I'm not pastor material.
Okay.
So I had to find that out the hard way. I was a pastor for about 8 months.
Okay.
And once I did one thing wrong, it was like people, all they could think about was trying to find ways to discredit me, and it's like they wanted to find all sorts of things wrong. So everything you did, they assumed the worst intentions, the worst motives, the worst. And I think that happens with religion too. Like once we find one thing wrong, it's easy to throw out the baby with the bathwater. It sounds like you haven't really done that lately because you see some value in it. But I guess what my question is, if you were to examine Christianity, would you want it to be true, or would you want to find fault? If that makes sense. Because I'm sure you're aware there's a lot of like apologetics resources that kind of like answer some of those hard questions.
Oh, sure.
And I'm wondering if you really dug deep into those. Or...
No, I haven't, because call me. I'm not a right-wing conspiracy theory, not by any means or anything, but I do have a sense of like, if somebody wants to convince someone enough and come up with an answer for every little logical, question that's brought up, like, well, what about that? And that doesn't quite add up.
Like the question about the different religions actually has some answers,
and that's very possible
that are out there. And you don't have to dig too far to figure it out.
I'm sure not. A quick
So I'm just
Google
wondering
search.
if you really put forth a lot of effort into that, or
no, I haven't. It's just something that's. I think people tend to do that with a lot of things in their life. Just sort of like, I just my gut feeling on it, whether that's wise or not. It's generally not.
Yeah.
Like just go to the doctor. Like don't assume. Like it's your arm is falling off, sir. But it just kind of gets. I file that under. Any website.
It's a very good question. People should be asking it.
Yeah. I kind of get to the point where I guess if there is a site or sites or resources that are so compelling that they are hard to dispute the points they're making, at some point there would be a larger movement or buy-in to these answers, that it would be a little bit more mainstream. What I mean? Whereas I just don't hear anybody speaking of this and like, oh, you know what? Hey, some of these things are actually, people on talk shows or, there are a lot of people that are really wanting their religious beliefs to be heard and for people to buy into them. And not necessarily in a bad way. I know that's like a bad term, but if there was this sort of
compelling answer.
Exactly. I feel like I would see them more in the public eye.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, I think there are compelling answers for me, but it's because I have so there's certain foundational questions or foundational beliefs, I guess, that one must have in order to get that answer. And if you don't have that foundational belief, the answer to that question isn't going to be acceptable. The foundational belief is that we're all human nature in general are evil. In other words, as opposed to we're all basically good. Is mankind basically evil or basically good? So the Bible would say we all have a God-given sense of morality, a sense of right and wrong, and we break it. So all the religions of the world have great value and worth because if they have any kind of like lasting value to them, they teach good morals because people know right from wrong.
Of course.
And so all the religions have that going for them, all the major religions, unless there's some, like you say, weird. But they also share the same problem as that is they teach right from wrong, but they don't follow it, and none of us follow it. And so we're basically, just knowing right from wrong doesn't make us moral people.
Sure, oh, yes.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we don't follow our morality.
Yeah.
Or the morality that we believe in, you know? And so we all are all basically bad compared to God's holiness, God's goodness.
Comparatively, yes.
Comparatively.
Yeah.
Now there are people who are better or worse than other people, but the standard isn't other people. The standard is something like God's moral law, like the Ten Commandments. Have we lied? Have we stolen? Used God's name disrespectfully, you know? Have we murdered? You know, Jesus said even if you murder or if you hurt someone with your words, it's like you're committing murder in your heart. Or adultery, you know, even if you look with lust, it's like committing adultery. So the good people that maybe you're thinking about, the Buddhists or the, you know, people in other countries or the atheists who don't even believe in God, would they deserve salvation? And the Bible would say, no, none of us do. You know, that's hard. That's something that unless you actually believe that we're basically evil, you'd have to say, no, they're good people. They take care of their families. They live their lives. You know, see what I'm saying? And so that's a hard pill to swallow, I guess you'd say, about Christianity. And there are Christians who don't believe we're basically evil. They think we're basically good. And yet, but they'll be the ones who say, if we go to heaven, it's because we've done something to deserve it. You know.
I think when that question about are we inherently good or inherently evil, it's very analog. You know, it's like one or the other. And
yeah.
It's just like when people say, is the glass half full or empty? Well, it's full. You know, if it's half full, if we're inherently good, well, then some of us is inherently empty, evil, because if we're inherently evil, but we do have this moral compass that's keeping everyone from stabbing each other and stealing each other's money.
Yeah.
Well, we are born with that. It's not just because our parents told us not to punch our brother and sister. But if you say, well, we're inherently good, but we are tempted just because we are, just like a puppy or a dog. At some point, that dog's going to get up on the counter and steal it. He knows he's not supposed to do that, but he's compelled because of this inner dialogue of like, well, that's a tasty treat, or whatever it might be. You know, humans have a different, you know, we have a soul. We are consciously aware of our place in this world. So it obviously it's an elevated situation, but it's hard to kind of, for me, it's hard to say, well, we are this or we're that. But if I were to lean on one, I would say we are inherently selfish, because that is the nature of how I feel like humans evolved in an evolutionary way. In that all animals and species, plants, are designed to survive.
Yeah. Although scientists will push back on that and they'll say there's social evolution and that we've evolved a sense of morality, you know.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. So, you know, initially, you know, we as living beings, and this is my belief, the driving force in our head is to survive. And then at some point, we realize, well, we are stronger as a pack mentality. It's just the nature of our species, our being. We can help each other. Okay, that makes sense. We're doing things. You get the food, you make the thing, you make the clothes, whatever. And then now of course we need the packs and we get agreements and stuff. But so I guess initially I would say evil is a big word, but I'd say selfishness tends to be the root of evil. If you want to look at it that way, greed,
Pride is a big one. Yeah.
Pride.
Selfish
absolutely.
pride, self-centered pride.
That kind of gets into like a psychological subcategory, I feel like, of selfish.
Would you say science has kind of replaced, like, science has been a big part of your not believing in God?
I mean, I couldn't point to like a list, like a bullet point list of things, but I tend to be. I'm the guy in the room when something terrible happens. Someone gets hit by a car, and they're like, "Well, everything happens for a reason." I'm like, I don't think so.
I think it's kind of random.
I don't think that is true. I don't think that baby needed to be hit by that car. I don't. Sure, you might find outlier stories where someone will say, well, then her sister was moved by that. She later became an oncologist, and because her younger sister died of cancer, now she's on the fight. Well, okay, great, but there are a lot of horrible things that happen to people. They're just not a reason things are happening. Yeah. When people, it happened for a reason. No, I don't want to hear it. Just you saying that is just almost disrespectful to my situation. I'm not in control of my. So
now, growing up, you were part of a family that went to this church, or
single mother.
Would you say that you had a conversion experience or born again experience, or
I think
certain
so.
time you would say you became a Christian, you'd say, and so I would imagine you felt
my
like
first exposure to church, really.
Yeah.
In a point where I
in junior high.
got it. It was like a trip we went to, like a Christian music festival.
Okay.
So I think a lot of people have that kind of moment where it's like outside of their own element.
Yeah.
Where they're like the parents and everybody, it's the same, everyone's, you gotta believe this. And you go somewhere and you're like, wow. Shit, this is like the real deal.
So you felt very much like you were in the family, involved in it, not able to kind of stand outside and look at yourself. You're in.
Yeah.
Was there a certain point where it felt like you were outside looking in the window? And not like, so you're on the outside.
It's too young to have
but
that
you're
sort
looking
of awareness.
in. No, what I'm saying is when you got older, like when you're 18, 20, 25, where when you were looking at church, you were no longer feeling like you were part of the group, but you're looking in.
Oh yeah. Once all of this happened, where I just felt.
Was it immediately
this was
or
a sham? You guys just told me to take a hike. No, not immediately. No, because I was from a small town in Montana.
Yeah.
Then you go to college and you start learning about new ideas and people, and then you start developing a mind of your own, or a mind that has been influenced by other people that you choose to feel connection with. You know what I mean? So it's evolving. It keeps evolving. You know what I mean?
Because like something I can compare it to is like sometimes when I'm say just scrolling on the internet and then I see a video of people worshiping, but the sound isn't on. I just feel like they look like idiots, and I think the average person scrolling through must just, what are they thinking about the way these people are acting, right? Especially if the sound's not on, or you're missing out on some part of the experience, or even if the sound is on, but you haven't you're not relationally involved with these people.
Yeah.
You're not there physically.
Yeah.
You're just kind of looking in from the outside, and it's a totally different experience than actually being there and being a part of it.
Very much.
And I'm imagining that's kind of what you're feeling like.
I think a lot of people need, I would venture to say, a large majority of humans.
Yeah.
Except for maybe areas of the world where it's deeply embedded in every element of your culture. And I keep going back to Buddhism, but that's, it's sort of everywhere. It's not like in America there are crosses everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in a lot of these countries, you cannot get away from it. But in let's just say America, you are.
Well, we're embedded in it in the same way they were embedded.
Oh, so I think that you, because of where we are, we are.
Although it's not like you grew up in the Bible Belt.
And I keep losing my. very clear thought here, but I don't. Maybe it's because the carts. I feel like the cart's about to run me over. Looking in on it, I feel like a lot of people, especially in the country where they're not fully immersed in it all the time, require some sort of change in visceral experience.
Yeah.
To see any idea differently.
Yeah.
Like going to college. You're like, oh, okay, we say it like that. It's surrounded by people that aren't my parents. Okay. Or
you know one thing that causes me to do that is if I bring somebody new to church, and especially if I know that they're probably critical about it, all of a sudden I'm very self-conscious. I'm looking at it like, I wonder how they're looking at it. They probably think this, they probably think that. You know,
when someone says, like, suggest a song to someone, oh, hey, this is a great song. You're like, oh god, if they don't like it, then I'm gonna be like, oh.
Right. Yeah. So.
What church are you affiliated with?
I go to a church called New Life here in Chicago. There's a bunch of different locations. It's a non-denominational church, and then
sounds vaguely familiar.
I'm about to move. Well, because they use the same logo, so it's like it's started by the same pastor, and now he's started different locations all around Chicago, so it's pretty well known around Chicago. And then I'm going to another non-denominational church. So I'm about to move out of Chicago.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think it's really encouraging that you still like to go to church once in a while. And
yeah, I'm an oddball in that way. I don't know.
It just makes me think that, because okay, I'll just tell you my belief, what I think is pretty biblically sound, is that once you're saved as a Christian, you're always saved. We go through seasons, we fall away. If a person tastes and sees that the Lord is good, they don't forget that taste, At the very least, you have people praying for you, And so I think God is not through with you yet, That's my take on it.
You asked an interesting question that we didn't really resolve, which was, if it was up to you, would you want Christianity to be true?
Yeah,
and I think I've never heard that question posed that way, and my answer would be absolutely.
Yeah.
Because how much fuller your life would be, and the way you would live your life, knowing that this is only a stop on the road.
Yeah.
If there was just this absolute, infallible, factual knowledge that this is going to happen, that this book, these stories that happen,
Do you ever read the Bible anymore, or not?
I think the whole world would get their shit together a lot more.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be seeing a lot of the nonsense. And I guess that's also
the reason I ask that is because there's a different way of looking at...
Sorry to swear.
Not too many people, I think people just kind of turn to these, and I write a little bit in the description of the video. I don't think too many people watch the whole thing all the way through.
Yeah, especially not this one.
Pretty boring.
Yeah,
but
lives to live.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm under no delusion that people are watching these like it's a big deal. But there's a difference between looking at Christianity from a skeptical point of view and trying to find fault with it and not giving anything the benefit of the doubt, and actually wanting it to be true, and saying, for example, like you were talking about some of those things that we can't explain in the Bible.
Sure.
Okay, so as I've come across some of those things, I've had to say, okay, I don't understand that, but I'm going to assume the problem is with me and my understanding rather than with the Bible. And I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. God, would you answer this question for me? Would you? And I believe that God does answer those questions, but maybe not on my timetable. So I don't get all the answers right away. I haven't gotten all the answers right away. But I'm at the point right now where I'm pretty happy with all the answers and all the questions that I've asked. And God brought me to that point, but it didn't all come at once. And so I had to move forward by faith. Faith is what pleases God. And so I had to say, I don't know the answers, but I trust that I will know it.
Right.
And eventually I did, but
in the way that made you feel satisfied enough to continue along in your faith.
and sometimes it took like building a foundation so that I could receive the answer. Like God had to answer other questions before I could answer that one. So,
and I think that is a very necessary structure
like a process.
And a process for each individual person in their journey through faith, whatever that faith might be. And I completely respect that way of living your life.
Well, I think it's worthy of respect for people who have gone through the process.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot that just assume they have absolute knowledge or just repeat the doctrines without questioning them. And so I think we need to go through a process of self-reflection and I think it's good to be critical of the church, if for nothing else for me, or critical of Christianity. Like, why do I believe what I believe? I want to be able to share it with other people. That's a big part of it for me. It's like people ask me questions all the time, and I've had to dig through a lot of different answers, but I feel more confident about striking up these kind of conversations.
Yeah.
And
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love